morning on this Sunday, and welcome to Mosaic. I'm Elizabeth Eckdale, pastor of St. Mark's Lutheran Church in San Francisco, and I'm your co-host for today. And with me, I have two wonderful guests. Nancy Nielsen, you are the Deputy Director of Lutheran Social Services of Northern California. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Stephanie Kazanczak, you are the Development Director of Lutheran Social Services.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, this is an opportunity for us to learn about Lutheran Social Services, and I understand it's been around for a very long time. So Nancy, tell us about its origins.
Sure. Well, like many of the faith-based social service agencies in San Francisco, Lutheran Social Services can trace our roots back to the late 1800s. Like many of the immigrants that came at that time with their own faith traditions, their first services were taking care of widows and orphans, and later they moved to taking care of seniors, and it was what they did, what churches and faith communities do still today. Our official starting date in San Francisco, in the later years, we did refugee resettlement after the Vietnam War, and then since that time, we've been serving people who have been homeless or formerly homeless, and we also have a significant program serving people living with HIV and AIDS.
And that's here in San Francisco.
In San Francisco, yes.
But I know the territory covers all of Northern California, which is a large territory.
Yeah, we actually go from San Luis Obispo to Oregon to Reno, all the way to Hawaii.
That's a large territory. Yes. Stephanie, tell us about some of those programs kind of out in the east and northern Bay and beyond the city.
Sure. So in Contra Costa County, we have a youth program for former foster youth who are learning to live as adults. And then we have a number of youth programs similar to that in the Stockton and Sacramento area, as well as programs for families, adults, and then up into their senior years as well. So we do the full breadth of the lifespan, if you will, for the formerly homeless.
And I guess we should be clear, these are services not just for Lutherans, right? These are services for everybody.
Right. We accept anyone. Faith is not an issue for us. We're based in faith, but we serve everyone.
That's a good way to put it. So when you say programs for, say, the emancipated foster youth, what do you do to assist them in becoming adults?
Sure. So foster youth come to us with, they've usually been wards of the court for most, if not all, of their life. They have very few skills. They may not even really know how to take care of themselves, making beds, shopping, budgeting. All those skills are brand new to them. So we work with them to learn how to live independently, learn how to access services, make sure they go to school. We want them to at least have a high school or a GED, but ideally go to college. We also help them learn how to access health care services. And teach them how to be a roommate or live with others, because that's something they also may not know. And it takes time, lots of baby steps, we like to say, to get to the point where you can live independently and also learn how to live a fulfilling life.
So are you providing housing for the foster youth, and then
yes,
kind of the counseling, educational services for them?
Right. So we believe that housing is the blueprint for success, stable housing.
Yeah.
And then from there, we provide what we call supportive services. So that's the full array, and it's based on the needs of the youth, or when we work with adults and seniors as well. So what is it that they need to learn to be successful in life? And we call that case management. So it varies a great deal, but I mean, even just learning how to shop for healthy foods is a skill that a former foster youth probably doesn't know.
Yeah. How many of them are in the programs that you're speaking of with Lutheran Social Services?
Oh gosh, we must have at least 1,000 between Contra Costa, Sacramento, and San Joaquin. It varies. The smaller programs are best, because then we can really provide the one-on-one attention that they need to keep them moving ahead and following a goal.
Do they age out then of your program at some point and
generally
graduate?
By 24.
Okay.
So 18 to 24 is typically when we get them. And then our goal is to get them through and teach them how to be a functioning young adult.
That's what we need,
yes.
don't we? Yeah, and what important life skills that they're learning from Lutheran Social Services.
Right, they're learning how to build their life.
Yeah, and rebuild trust learn how to make relationships, right, with people, create a new family for themselves, we hope.
Yeah, exactly. And that's true not only for the foster youth, but also for the adults. If they've been homeless for any length of time, they have to relearn how to be, they have to get their dignity back, their confidence, you name it.
So we'll hear more about those services from Lutheran Social Services after our break. Thanks. Welcome back. We have two guests today from Lutheran Social Services of Northern California. We're hearing about all their wonderful programs and ministries. We heard about their programs for foster youth. Now we're going to hear about what we're doing in San Francisco from Nancy Nielsen, the Deputy Director. Tell us about the variety of programs in San Francisco.
Sure, thank you. Well, in San Francisco, most of our work is with adults, seniors, adults, and in a few housing programs with families. Our largest program in San Francisco serves people who were formerly homeless, who are now housed. And in order to keep them housed, we provide money management services. This is a program we do through the Department of Public Health primarily. It's sort of a no-brainer if you think about it. If you want to keep people housed, the rent has to be paid. And if someone's been living on the streets for 20, 30 years, that's not a habit. That's not a routine they know. They don't know how to manage. And so in this particular program, whatever resources are available to the individual, Social Security, sometimes a retirement plan, that money is directed to a trust account with us, and we pay their bills. We pay their rent, we pay their utilities. We write about 9,000 checks a month on behalf of our clients. It's a huge program. We have talented staff who have developed a database that helps us do that, to issue those checks and to balance to the penny every month. But it keeps people housed. Folks that have been homeless for over 20 years are now staying housed on a permanent basis. We have about a 98% retention rate of people staying in housing. But that's one piece of it.
So you're helping them manage their resources wisely so they can stay in the housing that they've been provided or they're paying for.
So it's through, in this particular program, many of the folks enrolled have a subsidy program through the Department of Public Health. Others are just living in the community. But the primary thing is stability. And then working with them to say, okay, if half of your income, half of your Social Security goes to rent, how do you survive on the rest? How do you manage the month? How do you get a small amount of your remaining balance one week and more the next? We work with folks so that whatever resources they have, they don't get all at once. Because again, it takes a while to develop the skills to manage those funds, to know how to make it through the month on half of your Social Security, which might be $300 a month is what you have left. How do you live through that? How do you manage it?
That's a challenge if there's only $300.
Yes, it's a huge challenge. It's a huge challenge. And for people who've lived on the street and have some addiction problems, the challenge is to learn to utilize that money in a way that does good for you and not harm. In San Francisco, we work with a harm reduction model. So someone who's having trouble managing their funds may come in every day for a small check, $10, to get through that day, and then come in the next or the day after, but to manage those funds so that they care for themselves and not do themselves harm.
Again, you're teaching life skills.
Teaching life skills. And what's interesting is that many people who are homeless, when you talk with them, you find out that much of their life as a young person was in some kind of foster program, maybe with relatives, maybe with other neighbors. There are oftentimes people whose whole life has been chaotic, that they've never had a stable environment to help them learn any of the daily life skills. So it's a big challenge.
So if we came down to the Lutheran Social Services offices on Golden Gate Avenue, in the heart of the Tenderloin, on the first day of the month, what will we see there?
Well, you would see on the first of the month a lot of our folks who come in after we've sent out the check for their rent and their utilities and their phone. They come in on the 1st, and many of them, it's to pick up the balance. So we will have checks ready for them. We open to the public at about 10:30 on that day, and we have a very long line, which is gone in about 20 minutes because we're very efficient.
Yeah.
But that's our busiest day. But we see about 200 people every day.
You're seeing clients all
every
the
day,
time.
all the time. People come in to talk to their caseworker, talk to their case manager. I think what's another important part of LSS is that everything we do is in partnership with other agencies. So most of the folks that we're working with in the money management also live in a supportive housing program that might have a caseworker, or they're engaged in another health clinic. So we try to work with that client to coordinate between all those different agencies that they work with, so that care is always there for them.
Yeah,
always.
And
there.
the communication piece then
Is
with
critical.
all those partners that you're working with is so important.
That's a critical thing to understand, that helping someone who's been homeless is not just one agency. It's the first step. One agency helps them get off the street. Another agency may provide services. Another agency provides money management. But it takes that whole village to help one person. It's not just a one step, get them off the street. If all you do is take someone off the street and put them in a room and then never talk to them, you've just moved the homeless camp indoors. You haven't changed anything. So it's critical to have the wraparound services that are part of that program.
And I know Mayor Ed Lees talks about the need for more navigation centers that has those wraparound services right on site. Are you involved in those at all?
Tangentially, we're doing some pilot projects with our partner Episcopal Community Services to help folks who are finally able to get into permanent housing. We are doing some pilot programs with them around money management services tailored to those people. But it's a long process, and stabilization takes time when you've been living on the street
for years.
And the survival skills you need to live on the street, which are critical to survive, do not serve you well when you're in housing. Fighting with your neighbors is not a good thing. It might help you survive on the street, but in a housing program, it's not a good way to handle your differences.
So new skills.
New skills, new skills. And everything, I think what Stephanie had alluded to with foster youth, learning how to cook, learning how to shop. If you've been living on the street, you don't have that skill set. It's not your priority. Where do you do your laundry? Well, now you're in an apartment complex with a washer. So learning how to do these basic skills is a big thing.
Well, we just heard about homeless services. We're going to hear about their senior services next when we come back on Mosaic. Good morning and welcome back to Mosaic. I'm Pastor Elizabeth Eckdale, and with me are partners from Lutheran Social Services, and we're hearing about the diversity of programs that Lutheran Social Services provides in Northern California. We heard about the programs with the foster youth, with the formerly homeless, and now you've got programs for seniors. So in San Francisco, and then we'll hear what's happening in Sacramento, but what are we doing for seniors in San Francisco?
Okay. Well, part of our work with people who were formerly homeless is a housing program that is funded through the Department of Public Health that has formerly homeless seniors as the residents. And so in that program, we provide the on-site case management. And much like the foster program, support services are all about helping people to function at their highest level. So in the senior program, it may be helping them get transportation to medical appointments, making sure they get there, making sure they follow through on whatever their treatment program is, coordinating with in-home support services that they have arranged for, that there's an assessment of what their daily needs are. And many times it's just help with housekeeping or keeping some order. increasingly seniors who have been homeless have issues with what we call hoarding and cluttering, having too much stuff. You know,
Yeah.
you finally have a place to put it, so you bring it all in, and it's not always safe to do that.
So Lutheran Social
working-
Services helps provide
the case management, social
Yeah.
services, support services, whatever it takes to help that person maintain their housing.
Yeah. And that's
big
it.
part
We
of it.
want them to stay in
We
their
want them to,
housing.
that
and
is the goal. That is the ultimate goal.
That's right, and
stay
thrive.
housing and thrive up to the best you're capable of doing.
That's right.
Yes, yeah.
In Sacramento, there's support with seniors, but you just said that they also participated in an art show. Tell us
Sure.
about that.
Sure. So one of our projects, they started this art program on Fridays, and it was meant to be therapeutic and to get, because they are mostly older adults in this program, to get them out of their little apartments.
Yeah.
And they discovered that they really enjoyed it, and it went from an hour or two to 6 hours on Fridays. And they recently, we were there touring, and we saw some of the artwork they had done. It's like, this is impressive. So we did an art show, and there were over 40 original pieces, acrylics, oils, sculpture, crafts, and they displayed it, poetry. And some of these women, mostly women, there were men as well, but they didn't even realize in some cases they had these talents, or they'd been long repressed because they'd spent time on the street, they're disabled, they may have HIV/AIDS, they just might have chronic illness. We had television stations come out and cover it. It was really exciting for them.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So I'm thinking that funding these programs is a challenge. How do you piece together all the funding? Because you could do more with more funding. So where does most of your funding come from?
So in San Francisco, most of our funding is through the Department of Public Health or the Human Services Agency. We have contracts to do specific programs. The money management program is funded through the Department of Public Health. We take very good care of people's tax dollars, which is one way to always think about it. That money comes from city resources, and we are very careful on how we spend it, but of course there's never quite enough. The city's very careful with what it pays you to do services, and we're very careful in what we do, but there is always a need, and particularly for supplemental programs to do extra things for the residents. We do a lot of activities, dinners, community dinners, art programs, whatever meets the needs of the people in that particular residence. So those are the kinds of extra things that don't always get in a city budget.
Yeah, and Stephanie, as the development director, you're living this 7 days a week. The particular challenges for funding these wonderful programs.
So because we do get contracts to provide the housing and the basic staff coverage, it doesn't provide for furniture, sheets, towels, pots and pans. These people come to us with nothing.
The youth
They
especially.
might have a trash bag with some clothing in it if they're lucky. So we actually have businesses and congregations and individuals, they'll put together welcome baskets. They'll fill a laundry basket with essentials. If you go to our website, lssnorcal.org, we have a list of ways you can help us. We call it 7 ways to help us end homelessness. And everything from, of course, we always can use cash, but in-kind services. You can go to Amazon Smile, because many of us use Amazon all the time. 'Tis the season. So this is the time to use Amazon, and we have a wish list on there.
And on one of the videos, I was watching one of the foster youth come into an apartment, and she was carrying just a bag of what she owned, and this apartment was completely empty. So that's where I think we, as generous viewers and people who care, can assist Lutheran Social Services through your website.
You've got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And of course, for seniors too, they're in need of extras as well.
Well, we do try to do move-in kits for seniors. We do have a few people move on to higher levels of care, and when someone new comes in, like Stephanie said, we want to give them a basket. Things you don't have money for, soap and washing materials and supplies, all of those things.
Well, we'll come back for our last segment, and we'll hear more about Lutheran Social Services and a word about Christmas in this time of the year. Good morning. Welcome back to Mosaic. And we've been listening to partners from Lutheran Social Services of Northern California, Nancy Nielsen, Deputy Director, Stephanie Kazanza, Director of Development at Lutheran Social Services. And certainly this is the time of year where people want to give, they want to share a gift with charities or a place they know their gift is going to make a difference. And we've heard the difference that Lutheran Social Services makes. But please encourage people right now to go onto your website. Say a word about that.
Go for it.
Sure. Our website, lssnorcal.org. We have a list there. If you go to Get Involved, it'll tell you 7 ways to help us end homelessness. Volunteer opportunities, in-kind donations, action teams to come in, because we do have projects for gardening, for example, our Concord program. Yes. So call us, 925-825-1060, extension 15, and that will talk to you about how you can help us. And then, of course, visit our website to learn more about our programs, and if you want to give online or just find out more about what we do.
Well, and I think what is a strength of Lutheran Social Services is just the diversity of your programs, from families and children to emancipated foster youth, to seniors, to formerly homeless, to HIV, to those who are addicted. I mean, if any one of those touches your heart,
Give us a call.
Give Lutheran Social Services a call.
Yeah.
It can happen to anyone at any time in their life.
We're all vulnerable.
Yeah.
This is the month of December, where we are anticipating the Christmas season, which is already upon us. What I would like to do and end this morning with is an encouragement for you to find a church home, a faith community where you can worship, where you can celebrate Christmas with the beauty of the music and the Christmas story of Jesus being born into our world, where you can find a way to use your gifts to make a difference, like with Lutheran Social Services. So find a church home, worship there. Start worshiping this Sunday as we lead up to the season of Christmas. Christmas is 12 days. It starts December 24th at St. Mark's Lutheran Church. Our services that evening are 5 o'clock, 7 and 10:30, and then on the 25th at 10 a.m. But there's local churches all around you, and encourage you to find a faith community where you can celebrate Christmas this season. And of course, Christmas is also a time when people are volunteering. They're going to places to serve meals or to give extra gifts. And we want people to think of Lutheran Social Services of Northern California as a place where you might share a gift and you will make a difference.
Yes, you will. Absolutely.
Through the stories you've heard. And I think of these, you know, your clients, the people that you care for, I think of them on Christmas. During that time of year, that can be a particularly lonely time, and knowing that a gift can make a difference in someone's lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
For the good work that you do on our behalf. Thank you so much. And I want to thank our viewers this morning. Hugh Burrows, our producer, Ron Swisher, my co-host. Thank you for joining Mosaic on this Sunday morning. Again, I'm Pastor Elizabeth Eckdale. Have a wonderful Sunday.